Before we start, I want to thank my patrons, Trev, Steve, Richard, Carl, and Jeff, as well as the tool partners of Rockin' Woodshop, sawbladesharpening.com, Armor Tool, Firm Grip Gloves, Fuji Spray, and Wall Control. Thanks a lot, guys. Manipulating current models. That's what we're going to talk about today, and it's going to involve kitchen doors. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. Please click the like button and hit the subscribe. Don't forget that notification bell. And check out my Amazon and Patreon, and it will help support the show to bring you more content just like this. So we left off on the last episode with the existing model that we made for the cabinet door. Now the last thing you want to do is to go through all of that process all over again, because you had to make the positive, the negative profiles, the cope and stick joinery, as well as the raised panels. This will save you tons of time, and it will show you a few do's and don'ts along the way. Back at the tutorial that we left off, making the raised panel cabinet with all of the profiles. So I haven't changed anything. So I wanted to show you guys exactly how you can take just this one model that you have already put together, because you took a lot of time to make this, so there's no sense in making something else, especially when it's going to look just like it, only in different sizes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to explain something in regards to scaling. Now you guys saw me take the center panel and blow it up to 10 times its normal size on the last episode. Now if you're wanting to enlarge a project that you've already completed, scaling is something that I would not recommend. Mainly because whenever you scale an entire project, it basically enlarges the entire thing proportionate to itself, not proportionate to its surroundings. So let's just say if you had a cabinet that was behind this and you go to scale it up to a much bigger size, the cabinet's going to look like a giant's cabinet door to a human style cabinet, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is show you the difference in what I'm trying to explain. I'm going to back out here and I'm going to unhide a kitchen mock-up that I've put together for this tutorial. And we're going to start with this upper cabinet because it'll be the easiest. And I'm just going to establish where center is by using the tape measure function, because I want two doors to flank on either side of this opening. Let's do a 1/2 inch overlay. So I'll establish a 0.5 overlay right there, 0.5 overlay over here, and a 0.5 overlay top and bottom. Now if you guys are not knowing exactly what I'm doing here with these functions, tape measure and push and pull and things like that, I suggest that you go back to my lesson 1 episodes and get to know Sketchup before you attempt something like this in this episode. I've got several different episodes that will take you from an elementary introduction to Sketchup and gradually increase the skill level to where we are now. So go back and check that out. So back to the model. I've got the center line, I've got the overlays that I want to attempt. Now, I'm going to show you guys the scale method in doing this, and that way you can see what is actually happening with the door. So like I said, it's proportional to the model, but not proportional to the surroundings. So let's take this thing and move it. I'm going to grab this back corner so I have something to snap to my layout lines that I just established. Now I just used the move tool after highlighting it all to do that and grab the appropriate corner to snap to. Very, very simple. Now, luckily, I did not intend for this to happen, but apparently my center line is exactly 14 inches. That was funny. Okay, so I'm going to use the scale by turning it on using S on my keyboard. You can also find it under Tools and Scale. And it's also right here in the top portion of your toolbar. So if I wanted to scale this up, I want to keep everything consistent. This is kind of going to stretch it. So you can kind of see it kind of de-shapes everything, and that's not really what I'm wanting to do. So if I grab this, you see that it stays proportional to itself, but it makes the cabinet door look huge in relation to the cabinet. And the bits that you will be using on your router won't be like this. It won't look that big. So you have to keep everything proportional. So what I want to do now is, instead of using scale, I'm going to use the move tool to change these layouts. Beforehand, though, let me make a copy of this door because I am going to need it for reference. Let's just put it over here to the side. And I will make this door unique so nothing gets changed. So if I manipulate this one, it won't manipulate this one. So let's push and pull our style up to the layout line that we established. Let's just snap it to that spot. Now we're going to grab the upper rail. Grab that corner right there. And we're going to slide it up on the style and snap it to that point. So now we've got the established perimeter, but the panel still needs to be sized appropriately and proportionately, okay? So I'm gonna hide this kitchen first just to get it out of sight. That way I can get in and out back side of the cabinet. Now, the way you need to use the move tool is that any surface that needs to move in the direction that you request must be highlighted. And what I mean by that is, if you highlighted this face, the only real way that this face can go is left to right. I need to go up and down, so there's no point in highlighting this face. You'll kind of see what I'm talking about whenever I go to do this. So let's just go ahead and do it, that way you can see what I'm talking about. Now, I'm inside the component, and I'm just gonna highlight all of the surfaces that I want to move up. The line wasn't necessary, that was just accidental. So that's a surface I want to move up. That's a surface I want to move up. This one I don't need, it'll just travel with it. This I want to move up. You can kind of see as I move around what I'm highlighting. This I need to move up. This will just travel with it. This will travel with it. It's kind of like push and pull. So I believe I have everything that I need highlighted. And I'm going to turn my move function back on. I'm going to just grab this edge, or you can grab this corner. The corners are a little bit easier to snap to, so feel free to grab it if you want to. Get where I can see better. Grab that corner, and I'm going to click. And as you can see, every surface that I highlighted now moves in unison with the panel. And drag it up and snap it to that inside corner. So now all that did was move along the blue axis of the model and basically push and pull all of those surfaces that I wanted to move in that direction up, and kept everything proportional. Nothing was distorted. So kitchen cabinetry is one of the many enigmas for some people that are just starting woodworking and want to make their own cabinetry. You can start by building cabinetry in your shop as practice, but what I plan on doing with the Sketchup models is to show you how to do it in Sketchup so you can actually play with the model before you actually get in your shop and do it. So don't worry, this series will continue, and I'll show you how we'll get to the point of making a kitchen, a full-blown kitchen, with just about everything that I've taught you so far. I'm going to show you what will happen if you fail to highlight a surface that you need to move in that direction. You'll notice it right away. So I'm going to undo what I just did, and I'm going to leave off this big one here because it's pretty noticeable. So I still have this small shelf, the very end, but oh, and I also have this one highlighted. But I took off that big surface area right there that was part of the raised panel. So I'm going to go to the back side so it's more of a shock. I'm going to go in here, find the corner that I want, which is right there. And I'm just going to grab it. Turn my orbit function on so I can see where I am going. When I go into this inside corner, turn my move function back on, and it should travel with me since I haven't gotten out of it. There it is. And snap it to that corner. Now, from the back side, everything looks perfect. Panel was pulled up. Everything looks proportional on the back, but what it did is the surface area of the raised panel that I did not highlight basically stayed anchored to that original position down here and distorted all of the lines that are connected to it. It raised this up, which was fine, but this line right here that's going diagonal was supposed to be this line going to that corner. And now because we anchored it, that line is now distorted, going all the way down here to where it originally was. So that's what I mean by selecting all the surfaces that you want to move in that direction that you're trying to pull it to. Otherwise, it's going to do this on you. And it's quite a shock whenever you're going, you know, from the back side. You're like, oh yeah, this is working great. And then you come around and you're like, holy cow, what did I forget? So I'm going to grab my move function. Everything's still highlighted. I'm just going to grab this corner, and that way you can see what I actually did by accident. So the line is starting to shrink. Let's go back down here. There comes my profile. So it basically just kind of flipped it upside down and pulled it up like that. See? So you have to make sure that all your surfaces that you are wanting to select are highlighted. Let's re-highlight it, and then we can drag it back up. I'm just going to grab any surface. And now you can see that everything is moving in unison, and we can pull it to the exact spot that we want. Okay, now I'm going to unhide my kitchen back in place, and we now have a door that is perfectly sized for that cabinet. So what we can do, let me hide the kitchen back so I can highlight everything. I don't need my layout lines anymore because I've sized it appropriately. And I can just make it a group. So now this whole thing is one unit and will move wherever I want it to. But I can still go inside the group and play with all my components. I've made this a group, and we'll just copy it by hitting Option with our move tool on, and we can drop it. Now typically doors have about an 1/8 inch gap between the two. I'm not going to worry about that because it works the same way. It all works the same way, but I'm trying to make this lesson pretty succinct and quick. So now I've got a group of a door, another group of a door, and all of the components that are inside this group are now copies. So any changes that I make to, say, this style will affect the styles in this group on this door because they are copies of one another. So because I copied it in such a way, I want to make this door react opposite of this door. So if I put a hinge, let's say, on this door and I open it up, I want this one to open in the exact opposite manner. So I want this style, which is this one on this door, to be over here. So I need to flip it along the red axis. So I've got the group highlighted, and I'm just going to flip along the red line because that's what's running left to right. So now that I've got it flipped and it's going to work opposite of what this one will, I want to drag this pair of doors over to this cabinet. So I've got them both highlighted. In order to make sure they snap to the appropriate place, I'm just going to draw my center line. There, it snapped to center. So now I can just grab the center intersection of these doors, hit my move function, hit Option, snap it along the red axis to that point, and drop. So now, within a short amount of time, I have made a completely proportional door for an upper cabinet, copied it, and then copied that pairing and dragged it over to another cabinet that's made just like it. Now, what I want to do is do the lower cabinets real quick. I don't necessarily need to do an explanation because it's the same procedure. And now we have a completed door. Now, so I'm going to highlight all of these pieces, and this time I'm going to make it a component, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to hit G to make component. We'll just do door. Now, you know that earlier we made these groups. Now, I told you can make them groups or components. Either way gets the job done. However, there is something that I wanted to show you that is a difference. Groups are kind of independent. So if you go inside and you make changes just to the group, not necessarily the components inside, it won't affect the other one. But if you want to show something that you want the other one to be affected in such a way, then components is what you have to do. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to make this door a copy of itself. Snap it to that center line and drop it, okay? Now I need to flip it and make sure that the styles here are opposing one another. So I want this style to be this style. So flip the door along the red line. So that basically took that style and moved it over here and did the opposite for that one. Now what I want to do is pretend like this door is on a hinge and open it up for the client, but I want this door to do the exact same thing. And that's the reason why I made it a component instead of a group. So I'm going to do the group first and show you what happens. I'm going to go inside the group. Nothing is highlighted, but I want all these pieces to move in unison like they were together and glued up. So I'm going to just highlight them all by holding my shift and making sure they're all highlighted. Turn my rotate function on and make sure that I'm on the blue axis. So I'm going to click, click, and open the door like it's on a hinge. Okay? But notice, this door didn't change. It didn't open for me. So I just showed the client that, you know, the door opens. Great. Yay. But I want to do the same thing with the opposite door. And just making them a group would require you to go into the other door and do the exact same thing we just did. So making it a component will fix that problem for you. So I'm going to go into the component of the door that we just made, and I'm going to highlight all the pieces just like we did earlier, and you notice that all of these are now highlighted. So in theory, they should all open simultaneously. I'm going to turn my rotate function on, click that corner, click out here on the door, and open up the doors at the same time. So that is the difference of making a group of components a group or components. So I basically turn the whole door into a component with all the pieces necessary to make them work simultaneously. But if I just made all of the components a group, they're independent from each group that you made. If that makes sense. I know that that was a lot of information to kind of throw at you, but that is how you enlarge your door and show some animation to the client of how they are going to open. And you can either do it simultaneously or you can do it manually like we did with the groups. Either way, it gives the client a good representation of what their kitchen cabinet doors are going to look like, or the cabinets themselves if you decide to go that route as well. I want to thank you guys for joining me on this episode. Don't forget, all of the things that we are learning right now is going to be continuation to where by the time we're done, you'll be able to make a full-blown kitchen, not only in Sketchup, but in your shop. I want to thank my patrons right up here for their continued support and generosity, not to mention the tool partners down below. You guys
keep this show running, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to check out my videos right over here, both of them, and that just about does it for me. So thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you later. Boom!